to Toke. Uh, Today I've got the pool behind me. There's not a whole lot of folks. Actually went swimming for a little bit. I'm working on getting into a nice looking body again. So the pool is here, and you could see the clubhouse there in the background. I was on the opposite side, facing away yesterday. And every once in a while, you might hear somebody in the background because there are tennis courts back there. So uh, I am continuing on with my story because prior to now, you had, went through the three different steps of strike one, strike two, strike three, but I'm not out yet. I still didn't get it. I still was holding on to, you know, what I thought was the right way to go. So I was in Virginia when the last thing that I was telling you about, where me and the redneck, he was in the military, he was a captain. Um, you know, I figured out that minimum wage was not really doing what I thought it would. But on the other side, because during this time it was Jimmy Carter was the president. The economy was they coined a term. They call it stagflation. So the economy was stagnant, plus we had inflation, which normally doesn't happen together. And there were some policies that were put into place by that administration that was and I'd voted for the man, so I had high hopes and what he could do. He was an engineer like me, and was a Christian, so I just figured, what the heck, the guy'd be awesome. Then come to find out that the policies and stuff that he put in place um, were not doing what I thought. Um, so I also had a marriage that was beginning to have issues, and so all of this happened at the same time. I It wasn't a happy time, in my life. Um, it should have been. I had a decent home, the family was started, um, but with the home life kind of falling apart and the economy doing weird stuff, it was. Had difficulties, with vehicles and things. So it was not a fun time, if you will. And then there was a couple of things that started to help pull me out. Um, I, I I went to a a military school in Norfolk, Virginia. So I was a civilian there, and a token civilian. Everybody else was military, and so they had they call them seminars, which was just a group of people that kind of were together in a class all throughout the 6 months, and I was the only civilian that was in my seminar. Um, but while I was there, I remember this one. He was a major in the Air Force, and he kept talking about, um, we were all were talking about different ways to make money and things like that. And he would say, you know, I have to show you my business, and I'm like, okay. And time would go past, and periodically, I need to show you my business, okay. Just weeks went by, and then finally one day he says, what are you doing such and such a night? And so, uh, so when I went to his house, he showed me a concept that I found intriguing, and so from there, I well, shortly thereafter, even though he showed me this, he wasn't convinced because he stopped doing it, and so I ended up working with the people, some other people that were just neighbors who were part of this organization. I left that part of the Tidewater area of Virginia, moved back to where my home, after that program was over. And it was about 70 to 80 miles between the two places. And because the home life was getting weird, I ended up separated from my wife, and I, it was just a horrible time. And I found turning to the church. I'm a Catholic, and I kind of, I would go to mass, but I really wasn't into my faith. But I started moving closer, at this point. So between my faith being stronger and this little group, which I used to drive 70 miles one way to be around, things began to change. I started to see things differently. I never understood what a free enterprise was all about. And they began to teach what that was. I mean, I had a master's degree in engineering, and I never came across it. So now, having spent some time with these people, and they were very positive, and I needed that at that time, to have a group of people that I could connect with, and we would, once I reached a certain level with them, we would gather together and we would read these very positive books. I know Norman Vincent Peale and people like Robert Schuller, and there were other things that were Napoleon Hill's books. So there were a number of things that we would study, and that began to say, well, wait a minute, there's not just what I have been believing, and I was set up with those three things I've mentioned earlier, saying that what I used to believe, there's problems with it, and here I am seeing things that are telling me that I can have more control over my life. Now, it didn't help me to go so much like this, but it kept me from going like this. So ultimately, I ended up, at least staying even, which I'm blessed that happened. But so things are changing. Again, I'm not out yet, but I'm like, huh. So there's more to the world than what I had believed. Those things that were crumbling, there's people that have a different belief that maybe I need to look more at. So that is my thought for today.